The NFL owners voted to modify the overtime rules for the playoffs, meaning that each team gets a possession. These quarterbacks are earning so much money that everybody wants to see them play. Do you feel like this is better for the league or worse for the league?
I still cannot believe that a multi-billion dollar industry, the most popular sports league on the planet, despite these modifications, still involves a coin flip in deciding their games. It still drives me crazy.
Funny.
Why can't we just, and this is, don't get me wrong, this is better. Both teams getting a possession overtime is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But what about, instead of a coin flip, what about in the playoffs, the home team gets the ball first? That would reward them for their body of work during the whole regular season.
Yeah.
But again, are we taking a step in the right direction?
You
Yes.
could go down to the owners' meetings and pitch this idea. I like
think I
this
will.
idea.
I think I'll do that. It's also ironic to me that probably the best game of the year last year, the playoff game, was Bills and Chiefs.
Yep.
And that's the game that we're basing this change on,
Yeah.
was the game of the year. So the game of the year was so great, we think it's broken, let's fix it. That's how good the NFL is. It's perfect, but let's tweak it a little more.
There is another change when it comes to the 2022 NFL season, and that's that media, like you and I, are back allowed in the locker room. Now, this is huge for relationship building and honest storytelling. Why do you think it's important that media is back? It was a change after COVID, of course. It's when everything got socially distanced, and people were wondering if it was going to come back or not.
Right. So I think during the pandemic, I think that there's been a divide here, because for our jobs, it's hugely important to put down the cameras and the notepads and just talk to a player and get a relationship, share information, which leads to storytelling and stories, etc. But I don't think the common NFL fan, I don't think they give a rat's about it, because they see the interviews at the podium as the same as seeing them at the locker. So I think it's more of a big deal to us. I think the fans will benefit from it, but they won't know they're benefiting from it. It'll kind of be indirect to them. But it will be a better media product with us being able to go to the locker room, absolutely.
With those in-depth profiles, the only way that you get those in-depth profiles is by getting to know somebody and telling their story in a different way.
And you get the vibe of a locker room. People will say, you know, Richie, what they're playing, a game this weekend. What's the vibe in the locker room? I'm like, I hadn't been in one in 2 years. Now you can just walk through and tell our guys happy, are they nervous, are they playing dominoes, are they throwing, are they fighting? You can just feel that, and that translates to the fans would love to know stuff like that.
Absolutely. The Washington Commanders needed a quarterback. They got one in Carson Wentz.
Yeah, they did.
Is Carson Wentz more physically gifted than Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott?
I saw this and it made me think. At one time, Carson Wentz was in the running for Rookie of the Year and maybe MVP his rookie year.
Right.
He set the league on fire, and people were like, well, one of these days Dak may be as good as Carson Wentz, first round, fourth round. I don't think there's any comparison now. Wentz is, the reason he hasn't kept his level up is because of injuries. And being available, being physically available is job number one for an NFL quarterback. I know Dak got hurt, but that's his only injury he's ever suffered. Major injury.
And largely bounced back from that.
Largely bounced back. But right now, if you're just talking athletically, Dak, and then it's Carson Wentz. There's a gap there for sure.
Okay, more news for the Commanders is that Dan Snyder no longer and continually not in charge of the day-to-day. Instead, it is his wife. So how does this impact the team going forward, and do you see this as a total negative for the Commanders?
The Daniel Snyder ownership has been a total negative for the Commanders, if we're being honest. I mean, it's a mess right now. And again, they've had some feel-good moments this offseason with new logo, new brand, new name, and that's a good thing to put, the generic Washington football team, we're kind of this androgynous unit behind them to give them an identity. That's good.
Yeah.
But Roger Goodell, speaking at the NFL owners meetings in Florida this week, says Daniel Snyder is not, has not, and will not be in day-to-day control of the Commanders, which is, that's like Jerry Jones not being in charge of the Cowboys up in Washington. It's huge, and his wife Tanya is running the show. And Goodell says for the foreseeable future, while we continue the investigation into the workplace misconduct.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a while, but
yeah, makes you wonder what the timeline is there.
He said there's no timeline, which is that's the NFL answer to every investigation. But can the Commanders go through a season with Dan Snyder being way, way off in the shadows without meddling in the team? That's tricky for any owner, for any boss of any business. That's tricky.
For sure. We'll be sure to stay tuned for that. Let's move to the Atlanta Falcons, who have 4 running backs on their roster, but that doesn't mean
Or do they?
Oh, that doesn't mean that they're not going to go after another running back in the NFL draft. Do you think that the Falcons can start to get their running game going under Arthur Smith, who had this huge rushing attack, mentality heading into Atlanta?
He comes from Tennessee and says, I'm a run first coach. We're gonna run, and when they stop us, we're gonna run some more. And last year they were horrible running the ball. And Mike Davis was their lead running back. Not all on him, of course, but they got to upgrade that position. I mean, the Falcons need a lot of holes, right? They got Marcus Mariota at quarterback. I don't think he's going to scare defenses enough where they're, double teaming receivers and leaving running backs with gaping holes. But the Falcons have to get a running back, just if nothing else, for Arthur Smith's identity. I know he loves Mike Davis. I don't think that's the answer going forward. In the draft, they've got to find somebody.
And Mariota is pretty good on his feet, so we'll see if
maybe he's their best running back.
Yeah, he could be their mobile running back quarterback.
Did it in college.
Exactly. So for the Rams, Jalen Ramsey says, Trayvon Diggs, he's great, but I don't really like when people compare me to him. Do you think that is a fair statement? And what do you think Jalen was trying to say with that?
I do think it's fair, and I get it, because Trayvon Diggs has had one really good year, 11 interceptions. You got to give him credit for that, right?
Yeah.
But Jalen Ramsey has been to 5 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro, and now he's got a Super Bowl ring. Jalen Ramsey's right to say, I'm here and Trayvon Diggs is here. Maybe he's rising, but he's not on my level yet. I don't think that's even cocky. That's fact. And plus, they're different kind of receivers.
Yeah, they play so differently.
Trayvon Diggs is a high-risk, high-reward guy who he'll bite on a fake, and he'll make an interception, or he'll give up 1,000 yards in a season, which Jalen Ramsey didn't get him 1,000 yards in his career.
Right.
Now, he's only got 9 interceptions over 6 years, I believe, but it's just a different style.
Yeah, it's like comparing peanut butter to jelly.
Yeah.
They're both good.
They're both good, but I think most NFL GMs would say, give me Jalen Ramsey, who will just shut down a receiver, and he won't get the interception maybe, but you're not going to give up a 60-yard touchdown. And Cowboys fans saw that a lot last year from Trayvon Diggs. I think Jalen Ramsey's absolutely right to say, don't compare me to him because he's different and I'm better.
Yep.